Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters on That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Joining me today is a special guest, and I think Scott kind of gave it away where the location was. So, from the home state of Texas, Shane Ortega. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. And he's part of the band Aeganova, or I'm at least trying to pronounce it right too, but I know we were kind of discussing it earlier. So, I want to make sure you pronounce the name right too, because actually, for some reason, I was thinking you got the inspiration from Game of Thrones with Aegon for some reason.
No. The inspiration for it actually came when we first started like 11, 12 years ago. But I have a dog and his name is Agent Jesse Nova. We were having a hard time coming up with band names and we're yelling at him, Agent Nova, why can't you name the band? And there we go. He named it. So inspiration all from a little furry friend.
Yeah, inspiration comes in many different ways, that's for sure. Agent Jesse Nova? Where was that from, actually? Was that from a TV series?
He is a small little black dog with a white chest, and I was like, that screams tuxedo and secret agent to me. And I did like a poll on Facebook, and yeah, people just kind of picked out random names, and yeah, Jesse Nova won out, and he's a secret agent, so agent goes in first.
I'll tell you, oh God, don't tell me he's part of the CIA next. Again, the conspiracy theorists coming around the corner next. Actually, you see like those little books and actually little magazines. It's like your pet is actually secretly an agent for like the CIA, for instance. It's like trying to hack your computer or something.
I think there was like a whole Disney movie about that too, about like pets being like actual secret agents for like some governing agency. But, you know, being Disney, they just made it super cute. So.
Oh, you can't deny the cuteness of a nice little cat or dog. And I think I know which one you're talking about. I think it was a live action one. It wasn't those anime or cartoon ones.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So. And before I forget, though, which part of Texas are you hailing from, actually?
Well, we're in the Central Texas area, so near the Austin area. Yeah, we're not that far from the Austin area. We're actually in a place called Belton. So it's about like 45 minutes away from Austin. So
I just want to think back to the SpongeBob thing, like Texas. What's a Texas? You get that joke a lot.
No.
I'll be the first. All right, I claim the first. So
okay.
All right.
Now I'm gonna hear it all the time. You best believe people are gonna listen to this, and now they're gonna come up to us and say that.
It'll be on a T-shirt too. You'll be able to sell merch. Hey, you can put it on your T-shirt, get some merch out of it too. So.
Hey, why not? 10%
right.
of the proceeds go to you.
All right, that sounds good. Hey, I'll take whatever I can these days, in this day and age too. So, all right. So, Shane, I want to welcome you to my podcast right here. And the way it's going to work is just going to get to know you guys a little bit more, both as the musicians, but also as the individual too. So, first off, like, how many people are in your group right now?
We have 5 members in our band.
When I was looking at your pick, it looked like you had a little bit more than that. Is you guys kind of vary at times with like size or anything, or is it just whenever they're available?
When we first started, we started out with just 4 people. Then we grew to 5, and then at some point we had 6 for a while. Then we went on a hiatus for a really long time, for like, I think it was like 9 or 10 years that we went on a hiatus. And when we got back together, we ended up with the 5 that we have now. So, and that's been kind of solid so far. So we'll see.
All right, you can elaborate a little bit more on that too, but let's first start with you in general, then how you got into the band Aeganova. Okay,
So me, I'm one of the original members of Aeganova. We only have one other, and that's Jesse, our lead singer. We actually started the band with our previous bassist. It actually happened because I got out of the military. I was kind of depressed. They were my friends from like high school and stuff, because we all grew up in the same area. And it was just like one of those things like, hey, let's just start jamming and hanging out. We started jamming, started writing some music. It sounded pretty good. And we're like, let's try being a band. Why not? And that's kind of how that came to be. Before then, I didn't really play any like string instruments. So I had to learn real quick. Because at the time I was the bassist because I thought it was going to be the easiest one to play. And that's how it came to be. The 3 of us kind of started it with our old drummer, and we didn't do too bad. And then when we came back this time around, it was three of us that had started, but our bassist left about a year ago. So now it's just me and Jesse.
I see. Yeah, you hear about those stories about various bands who like gone through like various lineup changes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like probably some crazy stories here and there, but I guess for that long hiatus, is that kind of tied to the whole thing you went with your military career? I guess which part of the branch were you in?
I was in the Army. I wasn't in for very long. I got hurt, and I ended up in a wheelchair, and I had to learn how to walk again. And so, yeah, after the band and everything, I really couldn't stay in the military. But I did end up moving to another state, so it was just kind of hard to keep up with the band and be, 2,000 miles away. So
I see. And first of all, thank you for your service, by the way, even however short it may have been. But I guess did you see Army beat Navy the other day?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of my best friends is in the Navy, so I had to rub it in a little bit.
It's like, you suck it, that sort of thing. Yeah. Actually, did you go to a couple of those games? Because do they always do it in Philly? Is that where they do it?
I don't know where they always do it. I didn't always keep up with it until I started having friends that were in the Navy, just so, for the rights to brag when I got to. But I never really went to any of the games in person.
I think that would be pretty badass, even though those games are always like real low scoring because like they're not really like the best QB arms, and they're always doing like the triple option sort of thing too. So it's like you're expecting a low scoring game at this point. So pretty much just take whatever you can. I think now it's like either 4 or 5 wins in a row. Army is being Navy. So and if we can add it for the 5th straight year, you can rub it in your friends' faces. So, but on a serious note, I do pass my gratitude for their service, both in the armed forces as well. So, and I guess let's go ahead and talk about Aeganova a little bit too. So I guess if you want to elaborate a little bit more, because you did talk about a little bit earlier, kind of like how you kind of jumped around with like various members of the groups. So I guess let's try to do it like a beginning, middle, and end. So I guess what you got?
All right, I'm really good with the history of Aeganova. I feel like the historian of the group.
I think you want to strap yourselves in, people. We're in for a long history lesson here.
So, like I said earlier, when we started out the band, it was it's the 4 of us. You include the drummer as well. He was also part of the group and everything. And we just started kind of making music and jamming and writing stuff, and things started sounding really coherent. We then decided, okay, let's actually be a band. Let's give this a shot. What is it going to hurt to actually move forward? And so we started pulling feelers out for like another guitarist, because we had the one rhythm guitarist, but something just felt really empty about it. Like this could be more. And so we put out feelers for another guitarist, and we ended up with a guitarist. His name is Braxton. And he meshed really well with the group, and he was super creative, and he kind of filled in the gaps that we kind of had at the time with our music. And so like he joined, and shortly after we started doing shows. It was a super cool time. We did a lot of more local stuff in the area. We didn't venture out too far. But we did do a stint at South by Southwest because, close to Austin. And after South by Southwest, something happened that I started getting hurt with my leg. I had a lot of issues with it. And so I couldn't hold my bass and stand for like the long periods of time and stuff. It was just like the weight, it was kind of affecting me medically. And so we got in another bassist, and we ended up with the 6 members. And we were at the 6 members for a couple of months. I ended up leaving the band first. And after I left, the bassist left. He was still in high school at the time, and we're all kind of like adults and everything. And we had a really hard time with like getting into bars and stuff after he had joined, because not a lot of bars want a 16-year-old in them. So when he left, and then I left, and then I think our drummer had left for like some familial reasons and whatnot. So it was just Braxton, our old bassist, and Jesse, our lead singer, that were in it. And so they got a new bassist and a new drummer. And then I think they were like that for about 4 or 5 months. before, they're like, okay, this has kind of run its course a little bit. The chemistry isn't necessarily the same. So big 10-year gap. In 2020, we all, I moved back to Texas. We all kind of, myself, Braxton, Jesse, our old bassist, all got together, and we're like, let's do something. Let's just record a song, just for old time's sakes, right? Like, our old bassist and Braxton were already in another band, and they were doing some pretty cool stuff with that. And we're like, dude, let's just record a song. Let's get together, old time's sake, close that chapter, have a good time. Once we started kind of jamming together, we're like, let's just do an acoustic set at I don't know, an open mic or something. Well, it turned out Braxton was going to move to North Carolina, and he had a going away party, and he's like, let's just perform at the going away party, and it'll be super cool. So a couple months later, going away party, we perform, and we were so well received that Braxton just kind of looked at us and was like, you guys can't let this go. Maybe you guys should try again. We all have obviously really good chemistry. I'm just can't be a part of it because I'm not going to be here. But, if you have a chance, give it a shot. So I put in an ad on Craigslist for a lead guitarist and a drummer. Our old drummer, he wasn't interested. He's like, I'll jam out with you guys, but I'm not interested in trying to pursue something if you guys are trying to pursue something more than just hanging out. So then we got our drummer, Yuya. He came in first, and then Ryan, our current lead guitarist, he was the only person really that answered our Craigslist ad and actually showed up. And it was the moment he just walked in, he just had a good vibe about him, and he fit in really well. And so he came in, we started recording. Our old bassist had some family stuff go on that he kind of had to part ways. And one of Ryan's friends, Trent, showed up at our music video shoot, and we were like, hey, we need a bassist. And he's like, well, when's my audition? I was like, it's right now. If you're going to be in the video, you got to do it now, man. And he also, meshed pretty well with us. And now we're the way that we are now. So it wasn't too much of a long history. There's just a lot of really big gaps. So.
So, man, you put a brother on the spot just right there. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's like, are you kidding me? That sort of thing right now.
It's like, I had no time to prepare.
It's not even fair. I mean,
well, I think the worst part about it is the music video that we shot for was the Serenade music video. And he got the song 3 days before and was like, here's the bass parts. You got 3 days to learn this.
It's 3 days.
Okay. He did it though. He knocked it out the park. So
I was going to think for those music shoots, I didn't think you have to play it perfectly because I always thought, because normally in terms of music videos, what you see, people are always jumping around, trying to play their instruments, or they act as if they're playing their instruments. I guess was this a live video?
Yeah. So it was not a live video, but the director was very big on getting close-ups of our hands and where the fretboards and stuff, and even our drummer. So there was, I don't know, there were times that he would send me a clip and he's like, this was a really cool shot, but I can tell this is not what's happening in the song, so I can't use it.
I think Mudvayne was kind of similar when they were initially starting out back in 2001 with their song Dig, when they were doing the music video for it. And actually, when I was looking at behind the scenes, they actually were playing how the song would be note for note. So I think I could see why. So I guess it had to be a director's sort of direction, I guess. So. And I guess talk about the music a little bit too, because it seems like it's a little bit of the hard rock with a little mix of alternative.
So we're still having a hard time figuring out what exactly the genre is, right? And then it's one of those things, right? Because we all come from such different musical backgrounds, and we kind of push it all together into what we're making in our songs. Even Google has a hard time figuring out what we are. One day we're metal, one day we're alternative, one day we're indie for some reason. And I think we fit more the alternative I guess, genre, if you stick us somewhere. We had one guy put us in like alternative metal, and it was like, that's what you guys are because your drummer does this. And so, yeah, sure.
I was say, do you know it or you just Google know it? Those sorts of
Google doesn't even know.
even Google doesn't know. So it's like, if you don't know, I don't know. So, and you know what? I would honestly say it's more like a story of the year sort of alternative music. You know, story of the year?
Yes, I love them.
I should make you jealous. I did get tickets for next year, so I'm actually stoked to check them out. And actually, I remember growing up with them too. I think only for like their 2 albums. It was like Page Avenue and In the Wake of Determination. I just remember abusing those, like listening to them nonstop like crazy whenever I wanted to just turn them on for whatever reason. I think the one time, I think it was in 6th grade, and it was actually during an English class where we wanted to like bring in a song we wanted to play. I actually came very close to bringing in "Take Me Back" by Story of the Year because I thought that would have been a good hit. But I actually did AFI's "Love Like Winter" instead.
Yeah, man.
Those were
I've not heard AFI in a long time.
You know what? I actually do remember "Girls Not Great," but I was actually on Rock Band the time I heard it. But I actually just listened to December Underground the most. So you can see why. It was a killer album too.
Oh, for sure.
Now we get back into our nostalgic sort of feeling now. So.
I think that's why people like us so much, because like there have been so many times that I look at like comments on like either on our Facebook or on our YouTube page where people are like, hey, this reminds me of like the time back in the early 2000s. It's like, yeah, I guess we have a nostalgia factor about us a little bit.
You ain't lying. I do have to say that your newest song, Stan, it kicked some major ass, man.
Hey, thanks. We worked really hard on that one.
I guess speaking of which, I'll jump ahead on that one because I'm curious, who put that all together? Was it in a studio or did someone like you, or I guess you or somebody else put the whole song together?
No. So our drummer, he records all of his parts at wherever. I think he records them all at home. He has like a whole setup and everything. But everything else, we go into studio to our producer, Hammer and Nail. He records everything else because he has like the cleanest setup out of all of us, and he has a really good ear for our sound. So we really do trust him a lot. So he does the majority of the work.
I see, yeah. Actually, it's pretty damn good too in terms of how the mixing and mastering all turned out on the song as well. And I'm trying to remember, was here Serenade or what was the other one?
Infection was the first one.
Infection. It might. Actually, it might have been Infection. I'm not too sure. That was the first one.
Infection was the one about zombies, and then Serenade was like, it's like about like relationships.
I gotta get back into it. Sorry. All right, there we go. And I guess what sort of gear do you use? You say you're the vocalist and the bassist, or have you now kind of like split duties?
No, so now I'm the vocalist and the rhythm guitarist. For my vocal stuff, I just use my voice. For my guitar stuff, I currently use a Schecter Apocalypse. It's phenomenal, and it has a Sustainiac too. So if I just want to hold a note for a really long time and not do any work, I just turn that Sustainiac on, play the note, and then I'm solid forever, pretty much. And then my amp and cab are both Black Stars. So it sounds great.
It sounds badass.
Oh yeah,
that sort of thing too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I was going to press it because I don't know how much do you know about the other gear the other guys use.
Yeah, no, I can tell you. So my drummer for recording, he actually uses an electric drum kit. That it looks like a real drum set. It feels like a real drum set, but when you hit it, it doesn't make as much sound as a real drum set. So, but I don't know what his actual drum kit is, though. It's sitting in my living room. Couldn't tell you what it is. I don't know much about drums other than drum go bang. Our bassist, he uses a Schecter Omen for the bass. And oh man, he just had his bass cab here the other day too. I can't. It's custom. He uses a custom amp and cab. And then our lead guitarist, he uses. He used to use a Marshall amp head. He just changed it, so I don't quite remember what it is. And then his guitar, when we record, he uses my guitar. He uses the Schecter. Because with that Sustainiac, there's a lot of really cool effects that it can do just naturally that his guitar can't do. But regularly, he does use, I'm afraid to say it, he uses a Squier.
And it does its best.
It does its best. It does.
Has to appease the Lord, that sort of thing, too.
I'll be sure to put like a crown on it next time or something.
There we go, too. Next thing you know, we'll be doing our own little Game of Thrones before you know it. So, great. Let's start a TV series then. So, that's all good, though. And I guess you guys tour just locally and around the Austin area, or you try to branch out into like the neighboring states with Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico?
So, when we first started, we were just staying locally around here. And then when we got back together, one of the main things that we had issues with in the past was when people went to go see us live, they would say, "Where's the merch? How can I listen to your music?" All like everything else. And the answer that we would give them is, "We don't have merch and you just listen to us on stage," right? Nobody had anything tangible. So we spent these last 2 years getting merch ready, like recording stuff so that when people listen to us live, we can say, "Hey, you can continue to listen to our music on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever you listen to music." So I know that at first we're going to be doing stuff locally, but we do want to, and we have plans to try to branch out to other states. You know, I think we have bigger dreams and bigger aspirations than we did 10 years ago. So the goal is to move around more.
I guess outside of maybe trying to market your music too, I guess what's been like the biggest challenge you've been facing so far?
The biggest challenge is just us having to manage that, right? Like I do a lot of the managing of the social media for the band because, you know, my bandmates are super creative. And when I started working and doing like the promotion, the social media, keeping up with and all that, I started realizing how much work it actually was. And I didn't want to take away from anyone else's like creativity, right? Because when you do that kind of stuff, it does kind of take away from your creativity because you have to think of in like, you know, like a business mind. And then you also have to know how social media works, right? And the problem is like Facebook and Instagram, you can tie things together, but you know, when your stuff is actually getting pumped out to the public, kind of works differently. So you have to learn like all of these different things. So the biggest challenge in like, you know, promoting the music is just getting the social media right. That unfortunately is like the hardest part of it all.
I think a close second is trying to get the drummer all on the stage and then off the stage afterwards. So I think that would be the next best worst thing.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
We'll hire a roadie before you know too. We'll bring in an intern just to do all that afterwards. So
like we will pay you in tickets to come see us.
I think eventually we'll upgrade it to beer afterwards too, so they can at least enjoy something and be wasted afterwards and don't remember much what happened last night.
Yeah, we do what we can, right?
Yep. Actually, that would make our own little version of the Hangover afterwards and see what happens. So, and I guess I don't know if I touched on this, but I know we talked about Story of the Year, AFI, and like some of those alternative groups too. Would you say those were your biggest influences, or did you have like many others from like the classic rock guys, for instance?
So that's the thing, right? Where we all kind of come together with our different influences. Like me and my lead singer have closer influences and stuff when it comes to music because we kind of, you know, we were friends growing up and we kind of listened to a lot of the same stuff like Evanescence, Paramore, Hoobastank, and stuff like that. Our lead guitarist, he is a lot into like the I guess the more classic rock, like Metallica. He listens to a lot of Iron Maiden and stuff like that. And then our bassist is really into things like doom metal and Slipknot. Like, and the running joke is that our bassist is the Slipknot shirt guy, because in every single picture we have of him, and even in the music video, he's wearing a Slipknot shirt. And then our drummer, he pulls a lot of influences from a lot of bands I don't know, but they're like the Japanese metal bands and stuff, with like a lot of the symphonic, melodic, and then like really heavy drum. That's where he pulls a lot of his influences from. So, and we try to mesh it all together without it sounding like chaotic. But yeah, differently. Influences kind of vary between different members.
It's almost like his own little creation story afterwards. In the beginning, there's chaos, and then it just somehow forms all together around the almighty Ortega. That's yeah. I can tell you why too, and I think that's always like helped out, because you always hear about bands who got their influences from like different artists, and then like this guy's got inspiration from this artist, and then somebody just found the balancing ground, just like see where it goes. Maybe somehow you start off with just a simple riff, for instance, and it just all seems to tie together afterwards. And I guess speaking of which, I guess when you guys are, I guess, composing new music for that matter, are you trying to like write the lyrics first and then put the music behind it, or vice versa?
I think it kind of depends on the song. Like sometimes we've had instances where lyrics were written and we're like, this is, I guess, kind of more like in a poetic sense, right? Because any poem can be a song if you put music behind it, right? But like there have been instances where it's like, hey, I kind of wrote this song. Here are the lyrics. I don't have instruments behind this, though. That's y'all's job to figure out, And there have been instances where it's like, hey, I have this riff. It's like a 5-second riff, but let's try to build a song from it. And then our lead singer will sometimes kind of listen to it and be like, oh, I think this makes me feel like this, so I want to write it about this. And we'll just kind of go for there. So I think it just kind of depends on who has the idea and what kind of inspiration is kind of behind that.
I guess you try to like form a story with your lyrics at times, because usually you follow like the same structure. It's like opening verse, then chorus, or maybe a pre-chorus here and there, then second verse, and then chorus, solo, and then stuff like that too. So is that what you guys try to do?
Yeah, for the most part, we try to change it up a little bit sometimes, but like, the main thing is a lot of the songs that we have there's kind of a story to it or some kind of meaning behind it. And we really want that to be the most noticeable thing, is that we have a story to tell you, and, sit back and listen, I guess.
This is what the edge of your seat was made for. That sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing too. All right, that's all good. And I guess what do your lyrics normally are about? So I guess tell me Stand, like the recent one, like what's that all about?
Stand is that one's kind of obvious, right? That one is more so about kind of standing up for yourself. You have people, outside sources, friends, family, whatever, that kind of sometimes can bring you down. Like, you're not good enough for this, or you didn't do this enough, or, that thing you want to do is unachievable. And, throughout the song, we kind of try to tell that story of, stand up for yourself. Your heart is going to be put to some kind of test, and to pass it, you have to get there. And we believe that someday you will. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. But I think the problem was I was too drawn in with the drums and the guitars. So unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. So.
Oh man, those drums are killer. Our drummer always tracks first, right? He does his track, he sends it into the producer. Though we have practices like every week, right? And he messes around with things until he finds what he likes, or something general what he likes, right? But we never know what he's actually going to put out for like his final, this is my drums, this is what I'm going to play every time from now on, until we get into the studio. And boy, when we got into the studio, our producer puts on the drum track. We're listening to it. We're like, what did he do? This is crazy.
I'm gonna say BS that he'll be able to replicate that note for note in like live shows, for instance.
Man, and he does. Like, he's so dedicated to his craft. Like, I remember seeing him back in the day, before he was in Aeganova. I just kind of seen him in passing, and he used to wear like ankle weights and like wrist weights and like have like weighted drumsticks to play. So then when he would actually play, like it was seamless. Sometimes he'll come over to my house, because his drums kit is actually here in my living room. And he'll come and he'll play for 4 or 5 hours straight, take a water break, and then be like, okay, I'm done. So like he can, and every time he does, like sometimes I will be in the middle of practicing and like I'll just stop playing or stop singing just to watch him, and my jaw drops. Like, I didn't know you can do that, man. That's crazy. Couldn't see it.
That would be interesting. I think I gotta check out the music video, see how he looks, at least what the director was able to shoot with the whole video and everything too. So that'd be interesting. Fellow drummer, keep rocking on there, brother. All right. I would say my biggest problem, because I'm a drummer as well, and normally I try to do note for note, but I'm more focused on like trying to keep the beat. So I think if it was like my own song, for instance, I would probably be trying to do that first. So maybe it would be like a little bit more simplistic than probably what your drummer would do too. So I think he's probably got me in that regard. I think other than that, I mean, I say maybe being flashy or anything like that, in terms of like maybe adding in fills here and there. It really calls for it, and you have to like have that confidence level too. So I give him props to that too. So he's got me. We are not worthy. So, all right. But that's off to him to do and say, good job there, mate. Make sure you pass that on to him. And
oh, I will.
Before we get into COVID, I guess, here, let's talk about this one, I guess. What is it that you loved most about music?
I think my favorite thing in music is the way that people connect to it, right? Like, you hear all the time where someone says, hey, I listened to this song, like even like Linkin Park, right? People listen to their songs and they're like, that song saved my life, or, this song got me through a really rough time. And just people connect to it, and more than just, hey, I listened to this song, they connect to it in a way of, I am emotionally attached to this because I either fully relate to this, I partially relate to it, or, it just made me feel some kind of way. And that's my favorite part about music. And that's my favorite part about being a musician is, like in Stand, I've been reading the YouTube comments where people have been like, I listened to this, I didn't even know I needed this song in my life, and I heard it and I cried, or I, felt some kind of way. That's what I do it for. And I think that's what the rest of us kind of do it for as well. It's just for that same thing, the love and the connection to the people.
Nice rewarding experience, as we would probably like to classify it. So yeah. It's funny when it's about Linkin Park too, because immediately I always think of the One Step Closer song. Shut up when I'm talking to you. So,
everyone's felt that way.
What's up?
Everyone's felt that way. Like, they just want to get up to someone and say that exact thing in that same way.
I mean, nowadays you can't really blame them too. I mean, there's just a lot of BS going around too. So there's a lot of people around. I mean, what are you gonna do in that case? But it's funny because I used to abuse that Hybrid Theory album way back in the day. So, I mean, I don't think there's been anyone who was a big Linkin Park fan who hasn't abused that album without listening to it on repeat.
I still do.
I was actually almost tempted to do the whole album, maybe as a live stream, like a drum set. Maybe just as my own, just to make sure, just like goof around, just be like, hey, let's just reminisce and get nostalgic about the good old days, that sort of thing. To be determined, because I'm unfortunately struggling with live streaming at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into COVID a little bit too. So I guess, did COVID impact you guys in any way? I guess, how bad did it impact you personally and your family?
Personally, my family, COVID did kind of affect like us on like a personal stance. COVID took a lot of people out. And then in jobs and stuff, I used to work at a police department, and, it hit them really hard too. So in a personal stance, it kind of hit us and stuff, like, but not directly. Like I wasn't affected aside from getting COVID 1 or 2 times. And, feeling like the sniffles and, you kind of feel like you're going to die a little bit, but, it wasn't anything that like a lot of other people were feeling and stuff as well. So, I think the worst part of COVID for me was in North Carolina, like we were on lockdown, like hardcore. If you left your house and you didn't have a piece of paper that said that you were an essential employee, you could get fined, for just trying to go get some water or something, for being out on the streets. So there was a lot of cabin fever and just people just didn't want to be home. So from a musical standpoint, it didn't affect us at the time because we weren't doing anything like doing shows or anything at the time. It was kind of like at our infancy of like, let's start trying to do something. But it did make such a big impact on the music scene that's still affecting now. The way that music is done, the way that you promote music, the way that you do shows even, right, is just so different, right? You're networking. It's not like how it used to be. It used to be you could just go up to a venue and say, hey, I want to play here. But now they're like, oh, we have different people that handle that. And like, you have to, I don't know. It's just so different. Music became so different because of COVID. So it still affects everyone to this day. So that kind of affect us there.
Yeah, you're lying about like walking up and trying to say, hey, we want to play at this venue, for instance, because I think a couple of interviews I was in talking about as well, they were also mentioning like, hey, they just look more at your Spotify streams, for instance. So I said like, hey, we could pull in like 200 people and you could probably make a good amount of beer and other food sales as well. No, it's now more Spotify and live streams or anything like that too. So it's almost like, what gives? I mean, if we're able to bring in the people, I mean, why would you look more at our Spotify streams? So
they need to know you have an online presence now. You have to be able to keep up with social media. You have to be able to like, I guess in a way that it's seen is if you have that online presence, yes, you can bring people in, but can you bring business to them after you're gone, right? If you're posting on social media, you're posting on Spotify as well that, hey, we're going to be at this show, then like you have people from everywhere that's like, oh, this venue exists in this city. And I don't know, it's a whole business thing.
It's all about the money in the end. That sort of thing too. Actually, no, we're from Lincoln Park. In the end, it doesn't even matter. So that's an unfortunate way of putting a spin on it too, but you at least get the idea. So
absolutely.
But you said you worked in the police force. I guess were you a cop or did you work like more behind the scenes with paperwork and stuff?
I am in IT. So I just did like fixing their computers and their like, I don't know, making sure all their IT equipment was running, like their internet and all that. So.
Oh, so you were the tech geek in a way.
Yep.
And still are to this day. Actually, do you guys work multiple jobs?
We do. I'm still in the tech industry. I still do IT. Let's see. Our drummer works at a grocery store. Our bassist, he's an electrician, and our lead guitarist, I think he works for Amazon. He's a delivery driver for packages. And I think our lead singer is currently a delivery driver too, somewhere. I try to keep up. I swear I do.
I'll say don't have him be the pizza delivery guy. Those sort of things too. You will walk into some unexpected business at that point too. So, but it's all good though, because I understand. Because technically with podcasting, I'm now got like 3 jobs on top of this. So I mean, it's a lot to take in, especially with trying to do things like Patreon, YouTubing, and stuff like that too. So I'm hoping 2024 is the breakout year. So we'll have to see what happens at that point. And it's good to have you around here too, man. It's good to see that COVID didn't really affect you too much, even though you might have had a little cabin fever, but it's at least good that we overcame that. It didn't become like a cabin in the woods sort of scenario, or I'll try not to get an analogy, but along those lines. It didn't cause
Similar.
actually no, it didn't cause you to happen in The Shining with that an instance with Jack Nicholson. So, or putting your face in and be like, here's Shane. So that's why I bet the pool earlier. So there's a good analogy. So I guess, did you have any brushes with COVID on a serious note?
Like my family's gotten COVID, and whatnot. I think I've had some non-immediate family that had some pretty serious brushes with COVID, and whatnot, but I can't think of anything at the top of my head that was too serious or someone that I was like super close with or anything.
I see. But that's very good to hear. I will give this recommendation, even though it sounds weird. It's actually helped me out a couple times when I got fevers. Just throw in a pair of sweatpants and then just bring the blankets up right around your neck here too and just create friction. It honestly helps. That's an honest little secret I'll share with you right there. So
Gotta be a fever burrito.
yeah, way better speaking. All right, you jump right in that shower and you crank that heat up pretty good. So, all right, that's good to have you around here, Shane, and keep on rocking, brother. All right, so we talked about gear, also writing song lyrics. Let's do this question right here. I guess, what sort of advice would you give to musicians in our indie community? Because you've been a part of Band Together for a while, right? On Facebook?
Yep. We started our Facebook back in 2012. Yeah.
So I guess, what did you join a Band Together with Christina and Vox and Sticks?
We joined them, what, a couple months ago. It wasn't that long at Band Together. I think it was back in May, because it was right at the release of Serenade that I saw that group existed, and we kind of got invited to it or something, and we joined it, and it's been pretty cool. It's such a cool community.
Yeah, you're lying. It definitely gave me some good people to reach out to as well, especially you and Storm Kingdom and all those other guys as well. So it's all good. We're spreading the word. But to go back to your other question, I guess, what sort of advice would you give to those musicians and I guess up and coming musicians?
I think the biggest advice is to, like, it's kind of boring advice, right? It's not like, oh yeah, rock on and whatever, but more so of, make sure you take care of your music, right? Like there are countless times where people kind of, I don't know, they kind of take advantage of things, like, oh, this is a band that no one's ever heard of, or an artist that no one's ever heard of, and I'm going to take like this snippet of their song and copyright it, and now it's mine. My biggest advice is, you're doing it for love, you're doing great, but make sure you protect yourself, protect your music, and protect your brand.
Absolutely, too. I think people forget about the whole copyright deal afterwards. And I guess, do you guys use DistroKid or anything like that to help promote your music on all the platforms?
No, we use TuneCore. There's a couple of other things that TuneCore was doing at the time when we signed up for it that I kind of geared more towards, like, I don't know, like publishing opportunities and stuff. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is when you do distribute your music through a distributor, even though it has the little copyright symbol on it, when you go look it up, your music's not actually copywritten, right? Like, it's kind of like a placeholder of, we know this belongs to this artist, but the song doesn't necessarily belong to you quite yet unless you like register the copyrights. And that's like a whole crazy long, got to fill out a lot of forms and stuff. So
yeah, I see what you mean too. Actually, it's the fine print you always read over before you hit accept on your computer. So,
yep.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's a nightmare too. And unfortunately, it's very necessary that you read that fine print. So, big word of advice. So, at least if other people are watching this. So,
well, it's like one of those things, right? If you're using DistroKid or any kind of distributor, they do put that temporary like copyright, like, hey, this belongs to this group, but it's not necessarily a copyright, but it's copyright enough to know. But the moment you stop paying for them, that goes away.
Oh, you're not going to pay us anymore? Oh, we're not going to put this placeholder on it anymore. So F you, man.
Exactly.
Oh, well, F me, right? That sort of thing. So, all right, I see what you mean too. I guess, would you guys still consider yourself indie musicians, or do you think you've kind of moved past that? Even though I mean it's independent artists, but I think people like to keep it as like a terminology or something like that.
Um, I think we're definitely going to stay independent. Um, with the way that music is trending, it doesn't necessarily make sense to be like, hey, well, let's go sign. Um, there's just so much fine print in those contracts that, unless you actually pay attention, or like you kind of try to adjust things that they might not agree to, you're going to lose a lot of your creativity and your say so in your own music. But as far as like, I don't know, I don't know. We have a lot of plans, right? Like right now, what we're doing is we're going over some of our older songs, revamping them, and then sending them out, and recording them. But a lot of the stuff that we're writing now, that's like like newer music, we've never played it before. It just sounds different. So I think we're still trying to figure out our direction a little bit on that one.
I want to make sure it doesn't become like an identity. I was going to say identity crisis, but I don't think it'll
Oh
be that
no.
extreme, to be honest. So it's almost like we just want to make sure we're still Aeganova. So let's just.
Oh, absolutely. It's just one of those things, like, how we want to write our lyrics and kind of elevating ourselves as musicians. I think one of the biggest things that we've talked about is, we want to challenge ourselves a little bit more as musicians, not necessarily like changing our sound to where it's no longer identifiable as Aeganova and the footprint that we're putting in now, right? But like, what more can we do, right? Like, how can we elevate ourselves as musicians to where people are like, hey, Aeganova is just getting better and better and better. Don't sleep on them. So but that's the part where we're kind of trying to like figure out while staying true to ourselves.
I would say the danger I've always seen was like when bands, even when they made like a slight alteration, for instance, because it's happening like the alternative metal bands, like All That Remains, for instance, is like a very good example. I think all they did was they didn't do as much screaming or growling as they also did like on their first album, The Fall of Ideals. Then all of a sudden you see Overcome, and then it's like people start like bashing it too because it's not like The Fall of Ideals. Oh, you changed your sound because you're doing a lot more singing. There's not a whole lot of screaming and growling as there was as compared to like your previous works. So I think my word of advice is just tread carefully and make sure you're going in the right direction. So
Absolutely.
all right. So I guess here, let's do this question here. I guess what's your plans for, I guess, December here, and then we're jumping into 2024 pretty soon. So I guess what's the plans for December 2024?
So December, we are kicking off the end of December doing a New Year's show in the Waco area. We just got pulled into that, so we're really excited about it. Ring in the new year. So leaving 23 and moving into 24, playing music for a crowd. I think that's going to be super cool to do. Right now, the only thing that we have solidified in 2024 is we're recording an EP. We're going to release another song, like another single. Then we're going to record the EP and release that before the end of the year. And we're doing Battle of the Bands in February. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, gonna kick some ass. I guess how many bands normally participate in Battle of the Bands?
So I didn't go to it last year. I actually didn't know they were doing it at this venue that we kind of hang out at sometimes. But from what I heard is I think they had like 10 or 15 bands that played, and it was like sold out, right? Like the place was packed. I didn't know. My lead guitarist was actually the one that told me, because I guess they went last year or something. So I don't know. Well, we'll find out when we get there.
Sounds good. Best of luck to you, buddy. We'll see what happens. Keep us notified on the socials too. We gotta make sure we vote or root for you. So
absolutely.
Okay. So Shane, we talked for a good bit here, and we briefed the questions pretty good. So I guess let's go ahead and jump to some fun ones, and then I guess we'll see what we pick up along the way. Ready?
Okay.
All right. So start with the first one right here, I guess. What would you consider as your favorite food?
My favorite food, and it can't be food that you eat. Um, I feel like pizza is always a good answer, right? It's so like versatile. You can have any kind of pizza. You can have a taco pizza. You can have apparently a spaghetti pizza. I think that's a little weird, but pizza of all kinds.
I always remember there was a little funny video a friend of mine introduced me to. It had like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was like Arnold's Pizza Shop or something like that too. And there's something, if you want something crazy like pineapple, I'll kill you, that sort of thing. It was funny shit, but unfortunately, when you watch it too many times, it starts to get old after a while. But I'm glad to see if I can find it again. So I would say most people have said pizza, to be honest. I think you say spaghetti pizza. I was thinking of the white pizza, for instance, where you got the tomato on it, for instance, or something like that. There's no pizza sauce.
Yes. Oh, that sounds so good.
I think other times, I think I have seen a variant of like a taco pizza, which I always thought was a little weird too. I mean, for me, I just want a straight meat eaters, for instance. I'm satisfied with that. Yeah, I mean, just give me double cheese on it, for instance. I'll eat that. To see the cheese just pulling apart like this, it's just stretching, man.
That's that thing like they do in commercials.
All the Pizza Hut and Domino's and all those guys. It's like nothing like that at all. It is such a marketing scam. So, but what can you do? I mean, pizza's still good. Actually, what I really want to get back into is the cheesy breads that Domino's does. Because it looks like they do one now with like pepperoni. I think they also did one with like peppers in the middle of it now. So it'd be interesting. Maybe at some point. I don't know about any time in the near future. Because right now I'm stuffing my face with wings, nuggets, and cookies. So that's actually the Christmas party we had the other day. So we still got plenty of leftovers. So
leftovers just means you don't have to cook.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it saves. I should say it does not contribute to the environment because we're throwing away plastic the whole time with those plastic plates. So unfortunately, I'm doing a disservice, sadly. But I think we could pull out the old plates again and just use those and then just run the water and just wash it in the sink. So, all right. But for the next question, what would you consider as your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Oh, man, and the crazy thing is I can only think of one movie right now. It's like my movie knowledge just completely died, and I only have one movie in my brain, and that's Princess Bride. So I guess that one, if it's the only one I can think of.
I can see what you mean too. I mean, I've lost interest in like movies, and my dad keeps telling me about all the TV shows that he's watching. I'm thinking like, I really need to get back into it, but man, I am just not in it mentally.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's just too much work to even do that.
Oh, I got to work to watch this or something like that.
Got to turn things on and
Oh, look at that. He's making me work right here. Come on, man. You're killing me here. So, I can see what you too. Actually, I remember seeing that a good bit way back in the day. I think it was actually sometimes we just popped into the VCR during like school, for instance, when we needed something to pass the time.
Yes.
Actually, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. So
it was a great movie.
It was, yeah. Good choice, though. So, for the next question here, first off, do you drink by any chance?
I used to drink. Then I stopped for a really long time, and now I'll drink maybe like I don't know, a glass of wine or a beer or something like every couple of weeks. So not like I used to.
Not like you used to. That's the old saying. But for this question right here, I guess, what you consider as your favorite alcoholic drink and non-alcoholic drink?
So for an alcoholic drink, I always like if I had to pick just one drink, and if you drink this and you can't drink anything else if it's alcoholic, is I would pick a good whiskey, like a good bourbon whiskey. Like, I don't know, Angel's Envy is really good. Let's see. And non-alcoholic drink, coffee. Oh yeah, just give it to me in an IV bag and we're good.
Oh man, actually I hate to say if there's a coffee right there on the table, I hate to get in between you and that coffee, to be honest. So That's why we mentioned about wine earlier, because we actually took a trip out to Italy and they gave us wine normally for a lot of dinners and not breakfast, but lunches as well. So I'm curious how much you would actually drink in terms of wine. So
I've been trying out a lot of different red wines lately. There's a brand called, I think it's like Apothic. I think I don't remember the actual name of the brand, but I know the word Apothic is in it. And I just found like a Pinot from them, so we've been trying that too. It actually wasn't bad. It's like really buttery. I guess the best way I can describe that.
Buttery,
but
not
right. Bad. But not bad. Like it's like, I don't know. It feels good on the palate, I guess.
I'm not too sure. When you say buttery, I think like, oh boy, that's probably thick trying to swallow it, to be honest. So I don't know, but to be determined. I might have to watch it or drink it at some point too. So we'll see what happens. And for the last of the fun questions, what is currently your favorite song?
Oh no, I think this one's the hardest one out of all of them. Actually, I can tell you. So I mentioned earlier that I had a buddy that's in the Navy. He's also in a band. And I love their music, and I have been listening to a lot of this song called Liar, and it's by the band. It's pronounced McKinley, but to spell it is just M as in Mike, K, N as in November, L-Y. So MKNLY, and then it's pronounced McKinley.
It's not like he's trying to pay homage to the old President McKinley we had way back in the day. That's probably his name too, but I guess we can't really disclose that here, can we?
I think he would kill me if I mentioned where that name came from.
We'll have to get him on at some point, then maybe he can tell us then, though. So, in other words, to be continued. So a good choice nonetheless. And I think I'll ask for a link afterwards so we can perhaps give him a shout out here on the channel as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always one to boost up my friends, but it's dope. He does make really good music.
That sounds good. All right. And, this one, I'll throw in one more fun question, too. So, you know how the lottery's been, like, real crazy these days, getting close to, like, $500 million to upwards to $1 billion? If you were to win the lottery, I guess, just list off what do you do after all taxes are paid. Let's make it a dream come true. Just live it out.
If I won the lottery, we've actually talked about this. Every time we see how high up that goes, we're like, man, we need to play so we could win. If we win, the first thing like we want to do is we want to we want to buy some land, right? Like a nice plot of land, build like multiple houses and whatnot on it. So me and my bandmates can all kind of like live in our own spaces and stuff, and then have like a band house, like kind of like a barndemonium or something, where we put all the band gear. It's like climate controlled and everything, and just kind of exist, make music, and do the things that we love. And I know my partner talks a lot about, wanting to have their own like farm to market type thing. So I guess be band farmers.
The big windmills and everything too. Like wind energy. That'd be
self-sustaining.
Hey, good. Contributing to the environment too. So, although sadly, I think I've heard bad things about the whole thing with the windmills too. So it's a 50-50 shot with that thing, to be honest. So it's your call, but that'd be interesting because I guess what sort of car would you get too? Because I always feel like I want to get my Lamborghini, to be honest.
I would not get a Lamborghini. I don't know. I'm more of like, I think of like the more practical things. Like, I mean, I guess kind of. I would probably get a project car just for the fun of it. But me and my brain, the way that I think, cool, I'm in a band. We have a ton of gear we have to lug around and stuff sometimes, especially if if we're doing shows and even going to recording, we have to take quite a bit of our gear. And stuff. So I would get like a truck and maybe like a I don't know, like a trailer or like a trailer home or something. Like, I don't know. If you ask my lead guitarist, he would be the first one to say, "We're buying a band bus."
Yeah, you could also throw in that roadie too if you wanted to now do like payroll and stuff like that.
Like, you now get paid to help us move our stuff around.
You get to be our submissive slave that lugs all our stuff around. That sort of thing too.
Your main goal is the drums kit. You set that up.
You set that mofo up. That's for sure. So, hey. All right. No, that's good choices too. I don't know what I do with mine because there's always something we talk about too, but you always talk about financially first, and then everything else just comes second.
Right. It's like, I want to pay my debts off. Yes.
Yes. I'm finally debt free. Which is right off to the sunset, just laughing our heads off for whatever reason. So, hey, that's a good choice. All right. So, Shane, we're near the end of my podcast right here. We are down to one more question. Before we jump into that, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
I know my lead guitarist is super big at doing shout outs at the end of any kind of interview. So I definitely want to give a shout out to the rest of my bandmates that couldn't be here. I want to give a shout out to all the people in band together, especially Christina. She works so hard, not just on her own stuff and on her podcast and stuff, but to help elevate other bands. So shout out to her for sure.
Let's hope the whole glitching on Facebook's finally water under the bridge pretty soon, to be
Oh
honest.
man. I swear she's been working like a full-time job within itself, just trying to help people that are having issues with those glitches.
No, I think you wouldn't be lying. I think I've been seeing her too, and it even looks like her hair is all messed too when she takes her selfie shots. It sounds like she just rolled out of bed with that, to be honest. Either that or Greg's doing something to her. I don't know. So, Greg, limit the action right there, man. This is PG-13 rated here stuff. So, it's as easy as that. He's going to be like, what the hell? That sort of thing. All right. So, that's all good. And shout out to Christina and Greg for helping bring all these musicians together, as well as also being able to interact on podcasts like mine and hers as well. So, for the final question here, Shane, you might have harped on it a little bit too, but I always like to ask this too. Given what COVID has done, you know, some people have been lucky. Obviously, you've been blessed. I know some people have been affected in your family, but it seems like they've pulled through. I guess, what's our message of hope would you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in a post-COVID world who perhaps were not as fortunate?
I think the biggest message of hope that, you know, that I could probably give is, you know, though there may be like dark times, because COVID was a pretty dark time for a lot of people, and it hit not just with people getting sick and all that, but, you know, just with how people live their lives. You know, there's been like big spikes of like depression from people being, you know, stuck at home or not being able to do the things that they love to do, you know. But in all dark times, there's always some sort of silver lining. You just have to remember to look up.
Look like a true prodigy. And always find that light at the end of the tunnel, per se. And you know what? Now that I mentioned that too, I think I've always seen that funny post. I forget who posted it, but it was like, in the Mines of Moria. Do you know Lord of the Rings pretty well?
Yes.
It's like in the mines right there, you're seeing that light at the end of the tunnel is actually the Balrog just coming forward. So I was like, wrong light. It's the wrong light. So look for the heavenly sort of light. We look for that one. So that's all good too. And I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So Shane, we reached the end of my podcast right here, and we talked for a little over an hour right now. I guess do you have any final words, any shout outs you want to give before we close? I guess how else can people reach you if they want to collaborate or perhaps just reach out and talk to you guys?
So we are available on all sorts of social media. To be fair, though, we don't check our Twitter. It exists. It posts things, but don't try to reach us there. You probably won't hear from us for like 6 months. But if you want to reach out to us, all of our information is actually on our Facebook, our email, our other social media and whatnot. And of course, you can message us on there if you want to reach us. But if you want to listen to our music, anywhere you stream music, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Pandora, if you can think of it, it's probably there.
All right, sounds good. You heard it from this guy right here. So everyone, my guest today was Shane Ortega, hailing from, you said, I was trying to say the town name. Was it Texas? I'm also trying to memorize the name. So, I was thinking too much of the band name, to be honest. And I was like, oh, shit, I forgot what the name of the town was. But hailing from Texas. There we go. He's part of the band Aeganova. So get him up on the socials. Go check out his music on Spotify or where else, Bandcamp, whatever. Go check these guys out. These guys are kicking some major ass. And wish them best of luck in Battle of the Bands. So, Shane, thank you again so much again for coming on. Stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.